It will have 1 minute to respond to that question. There is a timer set to go off once candidates have reached their 1 minute limit. Candidates are asked to discontinue speaking once the timer goes off. Failure to do so will result in the candidate being muted until the next question. Members of the audience will also be muted for the duration of the forum. However, members of the audience may ask questions in the chat, which I will present to the candidates once the moderator completes all rounds of questions. Candidates will then have 30 seconds to respond to those chat questions. We will try to get to as many questions as possible tonight, although there is no guarantee that we will have time to get to them all, depending on where we are on time. Please note that questions on subjects that candidates have already discussed will not be presented during Q&A, so please pay close attention during the forum so as not to miss out on the information that may be important to you. Finally, each candidate will have 2 minutes to wrap up at the conclusion of the forum. Thank you all for attending tonight, and with that, I will turn it over to our moderator, Mrs. Nichelle DeWitt.
Hello all, and thank you for attending. So first, we will start with introductions for each candidate. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Nichelle, we can start with Christine and Young Peng, and then go to Young Fei, Lou, and Doug. Is that good?
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So we'll start with Lou first for 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is YF Liu. I am running for Christina School District. I am a full-time parent of 2 boys, one of which go to the West Park as a 3rd grader, and my other one will also attend West Park as a kindergartner. My message is simple. I would like to improve community engagement with our schools and the parents. And furthermore, I want to keep our schools safe. And then lastly, I would like to broaden the horizon for our students by expanding our current art and music programs along with history and other enrichment programs for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Next, we will have Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Gilbert, and I am a native Delawarean. I went through the Red Clay public school system as a youngster. I'm a graduate of St. Mark's High School. I am also currently a teacher, certified in K-12 special education, K-6 elementary ed, 9-12 English language arts, and 5-12 dance, and I hold a master's in education from the University of Delaware. I'm a parent of 4 adults who have gone on to college. 2 were in postgraduate programs, and I'd like to bring my experience as a teacher in the classroom, as well as a parent who served on multiple volunteer positions within our school systems where my children attended. I'd like to bring those experiences to the Christina School District to improve proficiency rates and also to improve graduation rates and to get our parents and families re-engaged with the school community and to improve teacher expectations as well, as far as providing them tools and materials so they can effectively do their job. I'd like to see things improve for all grade levels, and I'd like to see those students go on to a nice clear path of their choosing, be it a 4-year college or a trade school or right into the workforce or perhaps serving in our military. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next, we will have Young Peng. We can't hear you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Young. My name is Yang Peng. I'm a software engineer. However, I'm a scientist by training and hold a PhD degree in physics. I spent 4 years conducting research and teaching in different universities before moving to Newark, Delaware, where I had lived here for 15 years. During this time, I worked for Delaware Power, Bank of America, and now government project. During this time, I also earned an MBA from University of Delaware. I'm a father of two, one of whom studied in the West Park a few years ago. I love my job and I believe that a good education is critical to success in life. I'm a happy immigrant who believes that to whom much is given, much will be required. Running the school board is the way how I can give it back to the community. The education in public school needs to change in order to be better benefit to our children. So my philosophy for serving on the school board is to focus on 3 priorities: pursuing academic excellence, increasing parental engagement, and encouraging good citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll have Doug.
Hello, everyone. My name is Douglas Danger Manley, and I'm running for Christina School Board nominating District C. I'm running to strengthen our traditional public schools, ensure that our students get the education that they deserve, and provide our teachers with the resources necessary to accomplish this. I believe that a strong public school district will help foster strong students who will grow up to be our neighbors, our coworkers, and our future leaders. As one member on this 7-person board, I will be working with the other board members to steer Christina School District in the right direction, execute on the mandates from the state, and hold the district accountable to citizen oversight. I've been a volunteer firefighter with Mill Creek Fire Company for the last 10 years, and I've been on the board there for the past 3. As a board member, I've participated in the oversight and governance of a quasi-public service, worked on and approved multi-million-dollar budgets, and generally helped steer the company into the 21st century. My professional career is centered around software engineering, where I've designed and worked on enterprise-scale systems. I'm comfortable with technical specifications, requirements documents, policies, and procedures. I work with others as a team to ensure that we accomplish our goals. I've lived in Delaware my entire life. I grew up in Red Clay and lived my adult life in Christina. I graduated from the University of Delaware with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science in 2006. I enjoy public service, getting cats down from trees, putting out fires, rescuing people from car crashes, and also serving on the fire company board. These are all things that I do for the community, and I'd like to continue to serve this community as a member on this school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. So now we will go into our questions. First question will go to Christine. Christine, what are a school board's members' roles and responsibilities? How does your background fit into this role? And how does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
Well, the school board is supposed to make sure that students and teachers and faculty have everything they need for a school day to run smoothly, whether that's technology up and running, buildings that are properly sanitized, air conditioned and heated with working plumbing, no lead in the water, making sure our teachers are well qualified and prepared to do their job every day with proper tools, materials, supplies, equipment, and making sure our students want to come to school every day and are there ready to learn. Our job is also to engage with the superintendent and faculty as a liaison between parents and families. We want to make sure we're hearing from our parents and families as to whether or not their students' needs are
Her screen froze.
Employees should be able to come into the school building, be on the playground, and be able to function.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Young Peng answer the question. I'll read it again. I will read it again. What are a school board member's roles and responsibilities? How does your background fit into this role? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
I think the school board's responsibility, including the setting up the policy and the goal for the school, and also they do the budget control, also evaluate the school leadership. And most important is advocate and engage community and promote community engagement. So they also do the policy development and review. Another thing is monitor and hold the administrative accountable. So that role is pretty different from the superintendent and administrative. From our the board is more like the legislature, and the superintendent and the administrative is more like the executive branch of our government. That's my big understanding.
Thank you, Young Peng. Next, I will have Lou answer the question. Again, it reads, what are a school board member's roles and responsibilities? How does your background fit into this role? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent and or the administration?
Real quick, can you refer me as YF please?
I'm sorry, you said.
Michelle, can you refer me as YF please?
YF. Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So for somebody in the school boards, actually a lot more straightforward. One of the things for the member of the school board to actually represent our district, represent our communities, best to our abilities, to make sure that we do the proper representation. Furthermore, we'll set that vision based on our representation's best interest and how we best address and meet their needs to ensure that our students are successful, not just academically, but also in the future. So after we have the plan, we ensure that we find the best superintendent. We also, once we find them, we make sure that they help us carry out this plan. And they do not meet the needs of our community and carry our goals, we will have to part with.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's a minute. We'll have to stop with that answer, but we appreciate your time. Thank you. Next, we will have Doug provide his answer. And again, I will read the question. What are a school board member's roles and responsibilities? How does your background fit into this role? How does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
The board as a whole is responsible for setting the strategic direction for the school district so that it can deliver on its educational mandate in line with the requirements set forth by the legislature and the Department of Education. The superintendent's role is to determine how, at the tactical level, to execute the district's identified mission and mandate. The superintendent has the overall responsibility for ensuring that the district has the trained staff and sufficient resources to deliver on the mandate. The administration, teachers, and other staff ultimately perform the education work in the district. The only employee that the board has the authority to evaluate, however, is the superintendent. In my work at the fire company, I've been a firefighter, a president, and a board member. I'm aware of the different responsibilities that each has, and I understand how important it is for the board to perform its oversight and governance function, no matter how tempting it is to get involved in operational matters.
Thank you. We will go to the second question and we will reverse the orders. So this time we will start with YF Liu with the second question. How do you view a school board member's role and responsibilities around improving student outcomes, given that our state has 29% math proficiency and 42% literacy, and we fall in the bottom third of the country.
So one of the biggest challenges that we have is the achievement gap that has been created, and that was also exacerbated from the pandemic. So one of the things we can definitely address to improve our community engagement, where we give our parents the best opportunity to work with their kids, we give our teachers the best opportunity to ensure that the students that they teach have been properly educated. And then we also have the support staff and also the administrator to provide the best possible management and support to make sure that our teachers are also supported. One of the things that we can also do, something as simple as creating a syllabus at the beginning of the year. Perhaps that could also help because it is something that we can have a roadmap of what our students can do to achieve when it comes to that school year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll read the second question for Doug. How do you view a school board member's roles and responsibility? How do you view a school board member's role and responsibilities around improving student outcomes, given that our state has a 29% math proficiency and 42% literacy, and we fall in the bottom third of the country?
So the board's responsibility here, is ultimately to ensure that we get those scores up to where they need to be. And we're going to do that by working with the superintendent to ensure that our policies, our procedures, and our curriculum is being effectively performed. And we can't forget the causes, though, of, these low scores. COVID had an amazingly bad effect on the students, and we should learn a bunch of public health and education lessons from this, but we have to accept that the impact is there on their lives and on their education, and we're going to have to start from that. We also have to understand that, impacts on the home are going to impact their lives at school, and we're going to have to find ways to, perhaps with social workers, perhaps with mental health care professionals, get back into the home and help those kids out, where they're starting from.
Thank you.
And Nichelle, just quickly, we are going to pop the questions in the chat so we don't have to reread them 4 times just to be respectful of everyone's time. So the questions are in the chat in order. Thank you.
So you don't want me to ask them?
The first time, but you don't have to reread it.
Okay. So we'll go with, where do we start with? Doug? Okay, so the next 2 questions, or the next question will go to Young Peng.
The issue, we have a low academic performance due to 2, I think there's 2 areas we need to address. First is our mindset. The school district today does not represent the community's value, and it's focused on some non-essential things than the essential thing. The non-essential I refer to is some politics ideology that has been everywhere, and they do not focus on the core curriculum such as reading, writing, STEM, and fact-based on knowledge. That's we need to change our mind, turn our priority to the academic excellency. Second is we need to optimize the cost structure. That means the administration, we have enough money, but we didn't spend it wisely. We cannot use this money with the best cost effect.
Thank you for your answer. Next, we will go with Christine.
Just to all let you know that I'm not seeing the 2-minute timer on the screen. So I'm not sure if anyone else is not seeing that.
You may have to open up your screen for your video to see all of the windows, or move your arrows left to right.
Okay, I hope that's not cutting into my time right this second. So I just wanted to make you all aware.
Christine, just so you know, it's 1 minute, not 2 for these
Oh,
questions.
thank you for saying that. Okay,
1
thank you.
minute to respond to these questions, and Jayla restarted the clock for you.
I appreciate that.
No
Thank
problem.
you very much. I have several ideas. I think the biggest thing to improve learning is to make sure that children can retain being on task. And that would be to minimize disruptions and behavioral issues in the classroom. So I think we need to come up with some new techniques to quell those situations so that students are not disrupted from the learning. And that will keep the teacher also in focus so that she's not having to deal with interruptions. The second thing is to involve families. We want concepts to continue at home. So if teachers are able to communicate with parents what the content of the lessons are for the week or for the month, parents can be engaged with their students at home to continue that learning. Second or thirdly, let's raise expectations. By improving and increasing student confidence, students will take ownership of the learning process and want to do better. Again, I also think individualized learning is very, very important. Students are not cookie cutters, so we have to fine tune and individualize instruction to each student as everyone does learn content. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we will go to the third question. And again, we have 1 minute to answer these questions. Question number 3 we'll go to, we'll start with Doug this time. Doug, do you believe implicit bias exists in your district? If so, what do you plan to do as a school board member to make sure implicit bias isn't negatively impacting students and staff?
Sure, and I just want to note that sometimes implicit bias is called implicit prejudice or maybe implicit attitude. And it's a negative attitude against a specific social group, and you're generally not aware of its existence. As a board member, the first step in combating implicit bias is simply to understand that it exists. We all have biases, but it's the quiet ones that we don't think about that are the hardest to counter. To ensure that implicit bias is not negatively impacting students and staff in this district, the school board member should look for advice and guidance from people who might not fit their stereotype of the usual expert in the field. They should ensure that the policies of the district do not build in such biases through careful review and evaluation, and they should constantly reevaluate those policies regularly to ensure that they are working as intended. Christina School District has actively been reevaluating its policies and will continue to do so, and I look forward to being part of that process.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we will have ACLU.
I am Asian. I am bad at math. Actually, just kidding. Just a little bit more about my background. I'm an epidemiologist I graduated from Johns Hopkins University. I'm actually pretty good at math. In fact, I was good at biostatistics and very good at finding confounders. I agree with Doug, and that is one of the reasons why implicit bias absolutely still exists. And so how are we going to address it? Well, as a school board member, we should absolutely focus on inward thinking. We have to be empathetic. We have to be understanding. We absolutely have to listen and really represent the families that we are representing. So how do we work better as a school board? Well, maybe we should start listening to the needs of our community, listening to the needs of our teachers, listening to the needs of our minister and supporting staff. That would be a great first start for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. The third question will go to Christine next.
As a teacher, when I walk into a classroom, I don't judge any of my students. I believe that all children are capable of learning and achieving. Biases and prejudice do exist. However, they exist far more so outside of any educational environment. They exist in our neighborhoods. They exist in our workplaces. They exist among our politicians. They exist in the healthcare system. By teaching children that they are capable of achieving whatever their goals are, raising their self-esteem, raising their confidence, and praising them for a job well done, and sitting aside and listening to their concerns and taking their concerns seriously, that is how we remove bias and prejudice among society. Every individual that is equipped to do a job well done, to pursue a career, and to do whatever it is their hopes and dreams are to be fulfilled, that can be done by belief in oneself. That
Thank
happens
you.
when the teachers, thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we will have Young Peng answer question number 3.
I have lived in this country for 20 years. Do I have experience this kind of explicit bias? I think that sometimes there might be, but I really don't think there's a kind of system bias has been against me so far. From you see the process from the policy level, from the law level, from the I think this country has solved this, has been progressed very well, but of course there's still some room to be improved, but I don't think this is a highest priority to solve the bias, but we need to address if that comes. This kind of bias could exist in people's mind. It cannot, not easy to eliminate from people's mind. How do you deal with people's mind? It's not the.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, question number 4. We will start with Doug. And the question is, the previous question was about racial and social justice. Within this question, we'd like you to think about the needs of our intellectually diverse community. Give one specific example to describe how you would ensure quality education for all students. For example, gifted and talented, special needs, English language learners, those from diverse cultural backgrounds.
This is a nation of immigrants, and most new people to the country don't speak English. Our schools must educate the students that they have in the condition that they have them, not however we wish it were. We have to meet the children where they are, and that'll entail more student-specific bilinguals in the schools. There are over 50 languages spoken in the homes within Christina School District. While the district offers dual language immersion programs for Mandarin and Spanish, it simply doesn't have the resources to do the same for every language. If a student is learning English as a second language, there's a good chance that her parents are too. And I'd love to see our public school system take on a more public-oriented approach, maybe offering ESL classes and opportunities to the families as well. A family that's struggling to get by isn't going to be able to spend the kind of quality time with their student children that they need. And I recognize that we don't get federal and state funds to help the parents with ESL, but we could partner with local organizations that could. Part of being a public school system is building a healthy community for everyone involved.
Thank you. All right, next we will go with Christine. Again, question 4.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Doug, my opponent, on the point he made about reaching out to families and providing them with opportunities to network with agencies that can help them with English as a second language skills. I agree with him on that. I think that's very, very important because it is important that children are able to communicate with their parents during the day as to what concepts they're learning. As far as special needs go, as a special education teacher, I've seen many students unfortunately become pigeonholed within the system. That means they're not able to get out of a special education setting. So I think we need to reassess and pay more attention to the IEPs to see whether or not those students are having their needs met and how to get them out of a special needs classroom into the regular curriculum. As far as the gifted and talented learners, I think we need to offer them more programming. Let them have a chance to really be challenged in the classroom. And they also, thank you.
All right, next we will have Young Peng, again, answer question to we're answering question number 4.
I would say, think the goal to solve the for this issue, we need to preserve the goal of equality, equity. What that means, the equity in my mind is the equal opportunity. So this should be based on the goal of equity and the need of to reach that goal. For instance, if an immigrant who never speak English before, when they come to this country, they're supposed to provide some training program, language training program, so that they can compete with other peoples at the same level. So for the gift students, we should also provide some their opportunity to reach their full measurement of their ability. So that is what my answer.
Thank you so much. And next we will have ACLU answer the question.
Okay, so it kind of challenged my previous racial stereotype. And that's one of the things that we can really look to introspect on how we think about how we perceive others. So with that said, we should work on improving how we can have a school and community-centered education system, because each community reflects differently and should not be a cookie-cutter education system where everybody is forced to be in the same system. Everybody excels in the same place. We must examine how we can best assess and really best train our teachers to be better prepared to work and ensure that these students succeed. And also, this is where community engagement also comes in, where our individual schools in these communities that are reflecting of the community should also have the access and the knowledge of what the local resources are to really provide that equitable education where we are trying to perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to question number 5. And we will start with Young Peng. And this question is, the host of this forum strongly supports safe and supportive schools. The Delaware Department of Education district level data shows that Black, Brown, and special education students are disproportionately represented in discipline referrals, suspensions, and arrests. What other steps beyond existing policies should the school district take to ensure fair and equitable treatment for all students? This question
I trust the
go ahead, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I trust the statistic number is true, and if the disproportionate the number of the different race has been pretty different number, does not mean they there is they have been treated biasly, or they have been treated unequally with equal, I mean, they have been mistreated. But to address this issue, I think to increase the opportunity for them to participate in different kind of training, learning program is one way that can help. Also, we need to examine the whole, review the whole policy in detail.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next is ACLU.
So one of the things with the issues, really the issue brought up from this question is one of the aspect is the school to prison pipeline. And one of the most controversial issues that was brought up from that is basically they're referring to the SRO, the school resource officer. So whether or not they're needed or whether or not they are there to keep the school safe, that's one thing. And then whether or not they should enforce laws in outside of schools that concurrent to the outside of school, that is something that we should look into. And furthermore, going back to the implicit bias and also the ability that we need to do better to better represent our communities and better address the needs of some of our students is where we need to improve our policies and also improve our focus to really figure out what the root cause issue is when it comes to these statistics, where it definitely has been a very strong correlation with minorities, especially Black and brown individuals.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next, same question is going to go to Christine.
Okay, typically outbursts of disruptive behavior it's an attention seeking. Usually the student is looking for some sort of reinforcement, and whether that's negative or positive, the behaviors exhibit themselves. I believe that's due to a lack of a solid support system, whether that's coming from family members or whomever the student is with. So I propose these items. One is mentoring with the community. Oftentimes we find members in the community, church groups, retirees who were able to be partnered with a student with similar or like cultural background that helps give guidance and support to the student. That's very, very important. Secondly, would be a hand-to-hand, what I call hand-to-hand with a one-on-one faculty to student membership, where those students pair with a faculty member, and it's a check-in during the day to see how they're doing, to talk about issues, talk about concerns, just to give them the pat on the back, to encourage them.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, and the next person will be Doug.
Yeah, so what you've described has all the potential hallmarks of an implicit or even explicit bias problem. Aside from basic training for the staff, which is necessary but not sufficient, the board should take an interest in these numbers: referrals, suspensions, arrest, and attempt to identify specific places where we see the disproportionate representation. Is it localized to a particular geography, a social or economic status, age, or grade? We should adopt fair and objective measures for discipline and ensure that disciplinary data are collected, aggregated, and reviewed to ensure that they're being applied equally and fairly. If the state were so inclined with additional funding, I believe that we could bolster Christina School District's existing restorative justice and trauma-informed care processes to help these troubled students get the extra attention that they need in order to succeed and keep them out of the school-to-prison pipeline. A student who drops out of school is 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than one who graduates.
Thank you so much, Doug. All right, so next will be question number 6. And this question states, the host of this forum strongly supports family engagement in education. Attendance at the school board meetings has been, let me start all over. The host of this forum strongly supports family engagement in education. Attendance at school board meetings has been higher over the past 2 years due to virtual option. What is your position on continuing to offer a virtual option for school board meetings? Provide an example of how you value community and family engagement. We'll start again with Doug.
I strongly support continued virtual options for school board meetings. I know during the pandemic, when a lot of meetings moved to be virtual, I was able to attend and be part of so many more organizations and groups, thanks to not having to drive all around. The beauty of public education is that it's public. The community elects its board members to oversee and govern the district, and then that district raises and educates the next generation. And when people are invested in something, when they feel like they're a part of it, they contribute back to the system, and the system as a whole is better for it. And this is democracy at work. If you're a child in the school system, or if you have a child in the school system, if you work in the district, or if you just live in the district, the outcomes for children in this school district will impact you. When families are connected to their children's education, those children do better. And when strong communities support their public schools, those public schools and their communities are that much stronger.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we'll have Christine.
Of course, it's extremely important that the community, be it parents or residents, retirees, local taxpayers, have knowledge as to what's happening within their school district. Public education affects all of us. Educated students, well-rounded students, students prepared to serve, come out and contribute back to their community. So these forums should absolutely continue to be available on Zoom for community members who aren't able to attend in person to certainly hear and see what's going on. But in addition to that, I'd like to see the school board meetings be broadened rather than sit at a panel on top of the stage and hear a lot of talking back and forth. I'd like to see community members in attendance be more engaged with their questions and their comments. I'd also like to learn more about what's taking place in the system. Not everyone us to go into the buildings and see artwork hang, or know that the band made a community
you.
trip and played for a nursing home. So
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question will go to Young Peng.
I think provide the virtual option for the school board meeting is a very good way for the community to involve in the decision making. That I definitely support that. So beyond that, I think the school district should take advantage of the technology and more open to the community and let the parents to involve in the decision making. So that's what I think I have that's one of my priority is to increase the parental engagement. That is crucial for students develop during their young age. It also represents, we are talking about a lot about represent the community. That's a key step people can take to represent the community.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we'll have ACLU answer the same question.
So actually speaking from personal experience, I'm a full-time single parent. And first and foremost, when these meetings are posted, it is very difficult to actually get access. So this is actually why this type of engagement works really well for the community. Because once again, we're talking about implicit bias. Just because I'm Asian doesn't mean that I have a stable family where I can just have all that free time to attend the engagements. Another great example of engagement is actually provide dinner for families when we have certain meetings at nights. So yes, absolutely. When we have the availability and the resource and the technology to improve understanding and collaboration and the community outreach, we should absolutely use it. And we should absolutely take advantage of expand upon it to improve the feedback and improve the understanding where we can actually get more things done and get more voices heard. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Young Peng.
I think I already answered this question. I think the virtual. I think I have answered this
He has
question.
answered this question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go next to, is this questions? I'm sorry. We're on question 7.
Yes, we're moving to question 7.
Thank you. The host of this forum strongly supports laws around common sense gun laws. Given that there has been an unprecedented number of school shootings in 2023, please elaborate on your views on guns and safe storage and how this can affect the increased violence in our communities near schools. We're going to start with Christine.
I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I believe that families have the right to protect themselves, their families, and their home. Schools right now are not protected. It is not enough to simply wait for a response from our local police department. God willing, they get there fast and they come prepared and they're able to assess the situation and do something proactive. We've seen in the news, however, it doesn't always work out that way. School resource officers sometimes don't act either. Some are unarmed. The private schools are armed. I know this because my children attended. Why are public schools left without protection? We have lots of ways where we could have screened, properly trained individuals who were dressed in plain clothes, strategically placed throughout the buildings to protect faculty, staff, and students. We cannot continue to wait for another shooting to happen and for
Thank you,
more deaths and
Christina.
injuries to occur.
Thank you. Next, we will have Doug answer question number 7.
I will be crystal clear. The obvious cause of gun violence and gun deaths is guns. Guns have no place in or near schools, and I support any and all efforts to keep guns out of children's hands and out of the schools. Guns do not protect anything. They are offensive weapons designed to kill or maim human beings. Using a gun to defend yourself merely means this: you're using it to murder another human being. Using it as a deterrent is no better and further serves to drive us apart as a people, always living in fear of each other. Just in the past couple weeks in this country, we had 2 cheerleaders get shot for getting in the wrong car, a high schooler get shot for ringing the wrong doorbell, and a young woman shot and killed for turning into the wrong driveway. This is no way for anyone to live, and it is certainly no way for anyone in these United States to live.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we will go with YF
By the way, Michelle, you're doing great.
Thank you.
So in terms of gun laws, obviously, we do not want guns in our schools. We do not want guns on soft targets, especially our elementary schools, where we do not have SRO officers or school resource officers on site. Now, with that said, does the school board have the ability to change the Second Amendment? Absolutely not. So how are we going to address this? Well, currently, the current Christina School District does have a constable, which will actually do the security assessment. And we should listen to what they have to say on best addressing the needs of each community. Because not each community, once again, has the same needs and the same security threats. So when it comes to these kind of issues, we should absolutely work better and work together as a community to better address this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll have Young Peng.
Well, the gun is not as beautiful as a car, but what the gun provides to us, I want to make it crystal clear, is that it provides our individual rights in this country. That's the foundation of this country. So that's part of the constitutional law, and I am the one that support Second Amendment. I come from the tyranny country. I know how precious the freedom and liberty is. If we don't protect that with the gun rights, we will lose it. So compared to that, of course, people's life is even more. It is also very important. So we, as a society, should address this by, for instance, to do the back checking to make sure the gun does not fall in the wrong hand. Most important, we want the gun to be armed by the resource officer, so prevent when the shooting happens, prevent that from the school.
Thank you, Young Peng. Thank you. Next, we're going to go to question number 8. The question is, there has been a lot of discussions around banning books at school board meetings all over the country. What are your views around this, and how will you implement policies to reflect it? Let me ask that question again. There has been a lot of discussions around banning books at school board meetings all over the country. What are your views around this, and how will you implement policy to reflect it? We'll start again with Young Peng.
If I haven't made this clear before, I think I will this time, is that I totally support the school board should have the right to ban certain material or books if the community parents think is inappropriate to our children. That is our responsibility first. That is how we can represent the community. Second, that is the school board's responsibility to tell what is the responsibility to protect children from some non-healthy material that can sneak into our school. As to those material or books, whether it is appropriate or inappropriate, I I don't think just the professional people from certain area could be enough to tell which is good to our
Thank
children,
you.
but our parents
Thank
should
you.
have.
Thank you. All right, next, we're gonna go to YFLU on the same question.
To Kill a Mockingbird, Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm. The list goes on and on. In fact, banning books is a very disturbing thing that's been going on in our country. And it is by definition, a blatant violation of our First Amendment. So while I understand there are a lot of concerns with some of the content that should be banned, however, why are we not asking our experts, our librarians, our educators, our experts in the subject matter that actually provide the appropriate information that went to school to actually study whether or not these are age appropriate. So we should ask ourselves, how come? And what can we do to do better? So as a member of school board, yes, we're gonna do our best to represent our families. We're gonna do our best to protect our students, but also at the same time, we also have to remember, is it safe? Is it legal? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Thank you.
Thank you, YFLU. Next, we'll have Doug.
Never has a group of people who have banned books been on the right side of history. It is one thing to be concerned with the content and maturity requirements of the things being taught to students. It is another to stir up a moral panic and use it as an opportunity to harm the most vulnerable of our children. And no moral panic has been on the right side either. Not the Red Scare, not the devil's music, not Dungeons and Dragons, not video games, and certainly not this fear over what books are in schools. I trust the hardworking teachers and librarians of Christina School District. I trust them to do their jobs, and I trust them to have the best interests of the children at heart. And I trust the caring and loving parents of the children of Christina School District. I trust them to raise their children to know right from wrong, to be curious, inquisitive, and to have an open mind. I trust them to be active participants in their children's education, engaging in regular school activities, and staying on top of what their children are working on, learning, and doing in school. Banning books is never the solution.
Thank you, Doug. And lastly, we'll have Christine.
This is always an interesting question. Also an English major. I think syllabus needs to go home so the families know what their children are going to be reading during the course of the year. Secondly, I do think parental input is valued. Thirdly, I'd like to know, teachers should be able to tell us what is the educational intent and purpose of having students read a given book. And fourthly, I agree with YFLU, who gave us a list of some books that are currently, under scrutiny. I don't believe those books should be banned. However, ones that have highly charged sexual content are questionable, because if you're embarrassed to read it out loud to your grandmother, you probably shouldn't be reading it in the classroom. So classics, Huckleberry Finn, other Mark Twain novels, yes, we need to keep. But ones like Douglas Manning was saying about a moral panic, I think that depends on how those morals are defined. So again, that is where our parental input comes into play. Thank you.
Christine. Thank you all. And again, we have 1 minute. We're going to go with question number 9. School boards all over the nation are adopting policies around protecting LGBTQ+ and transgender students. What are your views on this policy, and where do you see the school's role in this area? We're going to start with Christine.
Okay. To be clear, all students are deserving of an appropriate education. All students are deserving of guidance, love, and care. All students are deserving of opportunities to fully engage and participate within the school community. That being said, I challenge those that wish to supersede everyone else's rights for those of a very small group and explain to us why that is. If it comes down to bathrooms or locker rooms, what we have in public places such as airports and shopping malls is, why not have a gender neutral bathroom? So we have one room for boys, one room for girls, and one bathroom or locker room for those who basically are still figuring it out. So no one particular group, their rights should not supersede everyone else's. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next, we'll have Doug.
Of course, I support policies that protect gay and trans students. Of course, I support Christina School District's policy on transgender and gender nonconforming students, which was the first in the state with such a policy. Once again, I am being asked to affirm the existence and humanity of a particular group of people. And once again, I affirm you. I see you. I am here for you, and this district will protect you and treat you like human beings. This nation is currently in the midst of a baseless moral panic that is targeting the most vulnerable of our children. It should go without saying that our gay and trans brothers and sisters deserve our love and support, and I am deeply troubled that I am forced to, once again, voice that support. The very fact that supporting our LGBT community members is controversial speaks volumes about the wall of hatred and oppression that they face. Of course, I support them. We should all support them, and I will do everything in my power on the school board to ensure that they are supported, cared for, and treated with respect.
Thank you. Next, we'll have ACLU.
So in the regards of the topic of LGBTQ plus, currently with the policy, I absolutely support the current policy that Christina has, because it is legal, it is safe, and it is also what is right. Because it represents all of our students, it represents all of our teachers and educators, it represents all of our staff members, it represents our community. And we should craft policies to represent and make everybody within our policy, within our community, to feel welcomed, loved, and accepted. And there should be no compromise when it comes to accepting everybody who is different. That's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we will have Young Peng.
When you're talking about support LGBT right, I would like to ask, support in terms of what? If you support their right to oversee other people's rights, I will definitely not support that. But if you support their rights as a decent human being and their constitutional rights, of course I support. Nobody should be discriminated. Nobody should be abused. Nobody should be irrespected. But in terms of support their right to let the boys use girls' bathroom, that hurts other people's right a lot. So that shouldn't be supported. And we should hear the community if they like that or not. You're talking about the reflect community, but on this matter, do you really do that?
Thank you. All right, next question is pretty light and easy. It's number 10. Please list the top 3 characteristics it takes to be an effective school board member. We're going to start with Young Peng.
Can you repeat? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Yes, please list the top 3 characteristics it takes to be an effective school board member.
Okay, I think the characteristic first is integrity. You should be a person that have a true, you speak what you truly believe it. You shouldn't be the person that say one thing and do another thing. That I think is very important. You cannot say, okay, I represent the community, but I do something differently. Second, I think the character for the school board should be have a loving heart. They should have a compassion. They should have a compassion of the different the minority, the person who are in the disadvantaged situation. And the last, I think they should be a person that smart enough to tell what's the problem is. When the problems come, they have the analytic ability to do things like that. I'm sorry, I got a little bit.
Thank you. Next, we'll have ACLU.
Oh, still a little nervous, even as a concert violinist for 20 years. So the 3 things I feel that is very important to be an effective school board member is to first listen and understand from the position of empathy. And then we should communicate effectively from a position of kindness and understanding and accepting. And also, you should be able to be confident yet courageous without the need to be aggressive and insecure. That is all I got.
Thank you. Next, we will have Doug.
An effective school board member listens to parents, community members, district staff, and more importantly, to each other. An effective school board member knows that they are not an expert in all areas of public education, but they know where to go and who to talk to for answers. An effective school board member has to engage the community and advocate for the district. Throughout my campaign, I've met amazingly engaged people who are very plugged in, but also people that don't know their school district or how the school board works, and that's on us as a school board to address. An engaging school board member will engage the community to participate in the school system. This community wants to participate. It wants strong public schools. And an effective school board member must be analytical. The board will craft and update policies, and those policies might take years to be fully applied. The board has to plan for this and set up a meaningful reporting guideline system for the district. It has to continuously monitor the progress to ensure that we're getting the results we want.
Thank you, Doug. Lastly, we'll have Christine.
I like this question. 3 qualities. I'll describe myself here. Innovative, a quick person who can formulate creative solutions to problems. Independent, someone who can think for myself and not be clouded by the mass opinions of those who want me to do what's fashionable instead of what's right for the students. And thirdly, bold, to be able to speak my mind openly and independently, because I'm doing that on the behalf of Christina's school district students, their families, and their employees, who at the end of the day simply want to see their kids do better than what they themselves have done. So each future generation has a more happier, successful, productive life. Bold, independent, and innovative. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. All right, next we will go with question number 11. It reads, mental health continues to be a tremendous issue for students and staff in our schools. What is your view on social emotional learning resources and schools providing these resources to students? Where do you think there is room for improvement? We're going to start with Christine.
Okay, when I was doing my student teaching experience in the Colonial School District, I had a 2nd grader in my classroom who was part of the special education setting. And getting his IEP and speaking to the regular classroom teacher, I learned quite a bit about all of my students, but especially this shy, quiet little boy who had been sexually abused by his own father. Disgusting, heinous, awful treatment of a 2nd grade child. That's what was hindering his ability to communicate and assimilate with his peers and to learn. We need to do more as a community. A full-time school nurse needs to be on the campus, and schools need to have a psychiatrist or a psychologist as part of our school community. Students come to school all day with various problems, some minor, some major, and some so horrendous we can't even begin to imagine. We need to do more with reaching those students one-on-one and providing them not only with tools and communication and compassion during the day, but outside resources. Thank you.
Next, we're going to go with Doug.
The sooner we realize that schooling isn't just for teaching children, the sooner we'll be able to move forward with a better system. Children spend the majority of their social lives at school, probably the majority of their waking lives too. It's a place to meet, to eat, to play, a place to try new things, and a place to define yourself. Mental health care is a critical step in improving student outcomes, but all the mental health care in the world won't put food on a student's plate at home. It won't stop their parents from working a 2nd job to pay the bills. It won't stop the violence in their neighborhood. To properly take care of our children, we need to address the roots of their problems. And while I wish I could fix it, this is not a problem that the school board alone can solve. 2022's HB 100 gave schools additional funding for mental health professionals and social workers so that the schools can begin to attack those root causes. As of today, this work has already been started, but it will take time to fully integrate and bear fruit. On the board, I will continue to monitor this work and ensure that the money is being properly spent on mental health care and
Thank you
social
so
workers
much.
for the
Thank
students.
you. Next, we're gonna have Young Peng.
Can anyone explain to me why the mental issues increasing recent year and more and more? There's a big environment maybe cause that, right? So, but just give the right to the in the school, get the funding for some professional treatment is not enough, and it has a dangerous to if it can replace what the family's role has been played, what's the role of your community had played, and other roles that that important people in your life can play. It doesn't solve the problem in the right direction. I think if we want to address this issue, we should have a comprehensive treatment for the whole society. The whole society should work together. Especially, we should have our community involved, have the parents involved, and the family involved. That's it.
Thank you. Next, we're gonna have YFLU.
Mental health help in the Asian community has always been a stigma. In fact, if there's anybody with an issue with mental health, everybody's keep their doors shut. And I have learned this firsthand when my child scored really high on the ACE scale when he was little and diagnosed with autism. So for those who know what ACE is, it's adverse childhood experiences, where they have a modifier that basically creates a lot of issues with the child's learning. So how do we address this? How do we improve this? Community engagement. Where are the resources? We do have lots of resources. For example, Autism Delaware, they provides workshops for the families and also provides places where the families can go for better resources. What about Children Family First? There's another major resource that we can take advantage of. So yes, we can absolutely even use the existing resource to better fit the needs of our children. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're gonna go to number 12. The school to prison pipeline seems to be increasing. What policies would you recommend to end this, and what are your views on SROs? SROs stands for Student Resource Officers, and how they will impact this. Let me ask this question again. The school to prison pipeline seems to be increasing. What policies would you recommend to end this, and what are your views on SROs and how they impact this? We're going to start with YFLU.
Well, so one of the things with SROs is that they are law enforcement officers. They have to carry out the law legally and to protect the peace. However, are they needed for our children? That is a question we got to ask ourselves. Now, with that said, as somebody who, as an individual that has been hired in the school district for a constable position for safety, we can absolutely assess whether or not there's a need for SROs. Also, we can review the policy and improve upon our current policies when it comes to what the SROs can and cannot do with our children in the school. Because at the end of the day, we're dealing with children, and many of them do not know what the legal ramifications are. So how are we going to better address this? So the impact is going to be life-changing. So that's why mental health and other support services are absolutely critical when it comes to these children and the involvement of SROs.
Thank you. Next, Young Peng.
I think SRO is very important to keep the school safety. And we have a lot of great people from the military retired, the police retired, and they have been playing a positive role rather than a negative role. But if there's definitely we can make their work procedure more into a more practical. We have a fit a certain kind of protocol. It can be more effective. I don't think that this should be SR should be removed. In fact, I think in today where there's a possibility to have the gunshot outside, you cannot stop them. So probably we should have more SRO officers, and they should be armed.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Christine.
I also agree that having student resource officers are a necessary part of our staff to keep everyone safe. However, I would ask the question, why are we seeing so many behaviors today where students are not on task and they're causing outbursts and other disruptions to the classroom? There's lots of theories behind that. I think teachers need to get to know their students and their families. They need to work together as a team to find out, is discipline being carried out at home? I know in the old days that if you did something at school, you weren't just punished at school, you were punished when you got home. So we need consequences, clear, concise consequences. I heard recently of a young third grade boy who talked about a student tossing furniture, knocking furniture in the classroom. The consequence for that student was to continue doing that in the classroom, and everyone else was removed into another room down the hallway, which disrupted learning, threw the teacher off of what she was doing for the lesson plan. Thank you.
And lastly, we'll have Doug.
The police enjoy a funding paradox. If things aren't going well, they need more money to fix it. If things are going well, well, they need more money to make it better. It's always politically easy to fund the police. But what's easy is not necessarily what's best. Police in schools have a chilling effect, making the school feel more like a prison than a school. And yes, I recognize that we ask our police to do far more than mere law enforcement. We send them to deal with traffic, mental health crises, to be part of the school system. I would personally like to see the law enforcement aspect of policing removed from the schools and replaced with other social service workers, mental health care professionals, teachers, or aides, people who generally have a direct positive impact on students. As I mentioned before, if the state were so inclined, with additional funding, we could bolster Christina School District's existing restorative justice and trauma-informed care processes to help these troubled students.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to question number 13. Referendum is a way for school districts to raise taxes to pay for both operational needs and capital expenses to improve school infrastructures. What are your views on the referendum? Do you feel there should be referendum reform, and how does that look? Again, referendum is a way for school districts to raise taxes to pay for both operational needs and capital expenses to improve school infrastructures. What are your views on the referendum? Do you feel there should be referendum reform, and how does that look? We're going to start with Doug.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Vote yes on every referendum. Do not take out your frustration with the state legislature and its inability to properly fund education on the children. Those children deserve every dollar and every opportunity that they can get. If you don't like the school district having to beg for money every few years, then I urge you to take it up with the General Assembly. They have known about this problem for decades, and every few years they commission a new study or a new consortium that they can use to punt on the issue. They are punting on your children's education, on your children's future, punting to the next election. But every other year is an election year. It will never be a convenient time for them. Vote yes on every referendum. Vote out the legislatures who will not fix school funding.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we'll have Christine.
Oh, I'm glad I got this question. I'm going to ask, while the school district is begging for money, I want parents to ask, hey, let's beg for some results. What are you doing with the dollars you already have? How are they being spent? What are you going to do with future dollars that you get? If you were in the private sector, you would have to prove dollar for dollar where that money is being spent and to what purpose. You wouldn't just continue to ask for more money and fill that bucket, which has a hole in it, by the way, and watch the water continue to drain out. So you either get a new bucket or you patch the hole, knowing that at some point the patch is going to come off. If I'm on the school board, I'm not going to ask taxpayers for one additional penny. I want to turn over the current budget and see where every dime is being spent. And that money better be allocated directly to the students so that they are the first beneficiaries. Every penny has to be accounted for and justified. No additional money will come from the taxpayers
Thank you.
until
Thank
we
you.
get
Thank
results
you.
first. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Next, we're going to have ACLU.
So to Christine's point, I actually agree. We need to have better transparency on where we're spending our dollars. How are we spending our money? Because at the end of the day, how are we know that the money that we are spending are being accounted for? Now, with that said, I feel that referendum needs to go. Why is that? Well, the whole purpose of discussing a possibility of referendum takes up time on the school board. The whole work of getting a referendum takes up payroll just to have that feasibility study done. The fact that we had to schedule the referendum and get the polls working, that's one another expense that we had to expand on just to get more money for our schools. So yes, we need to get better funding reform. Our funding formula is outdated, and we need to talk and ask ourselves, how can we improve this? Besides just saying yes or no on this topic only.
Thank you. Next, Young Peng.
If you look at the data, Delaware is the last few states in terms of the graduation rate, the proficiency, number of percentage of proficiency, SAT, all those kind data. All those numbers, they're pretty bad. But in terms of spendings, Delaware is the first few states. So it's not the problem of the money. There's some other issue exists there. I agree with we should increase the transparency, but meanwhile, the school district should be more responsible, accountable for the taxpayers' money. When I door to door talk to the people are angry about they paying the tax and without being even noticed for those kind of referendum. So there should be addressed those kind of
Thank you. Thank you, Young Peng. All right, the next question is, in the past few years, there has been an escalated amount of cases around lead in schools and in drinking water. Please share with the audience your views on this and how you propose better guidelines and laws around lead prevention. Young Peng?
Why there's a lead in the school and in the water? I think maybe the reason is home that built in the US before 1978, I believe, has those lead pen. So that means, give me an impression, the facility in the school today is really old and for so many years haven't been renewed. As far as I know, our teacher in the Christina district public school, they're paid not pretty well, even more than the charter school. If that is the case, we didn't spend enough money for the facility renew. And when I talk to people, they said some even teacher have to pay from their own pocket for something necessary for the teaching facility fixed.
Thank you. ACLU?
Oh yeah, just a little bit more about myself. I'm also a firefighter in the New York city. And one of the saying is complacency kills firefighters. What does that mean? If you're complacent, if you feel that you're safe, that's how you end up getting hurt. In fact, we've been complacent since 1980. Well, let me correct myself. 1978, when they removed the lead paint from the homes. Ever since then, we feel that we are safe from lead. Are we? No, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have been not taking advantage of the grants for lead remediation. And also, we have not really been educating our public on the dangers of lead and also the long-term effects of lead. So how are we going to do this? Well, we got to work on improving the community education and really raise that awareness for our families first. Because right now, without that awareness level, there's not going to be enough momentum to carry on to actually fight. So there are people out there that are working hard, and I thank them for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, thank you. Next, we're gonna have Doug.
So lead in the water is objectively bad. The EPA has set the maximum contaminant level goal for lead in drinking water at 0 parts per million, meaning that there is no safe amount of lead in water. Lead like this typically comes from old lead pipes, which were used through the 1930s, or lead-based solder, which was used until 1986. And it's indicative of old, unupdated infrastructure. Unfortunately, we can't test our way out of lead problems, and filters only mask the problem. The best solution is to tear out all of the old lead piping and replace it with new, safe materials, but this is going to be costly. The school district can't have a bake sale to raise the funds to fix the lead pipes. The solution must come from the General Assembly, and we as a community, as voters, can't let them keep kicking this can down to the next General Assembly, to the next election. I encourage everybody in the district to engage with their legislators and demand change. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we'll have Christine.
Well, I'd like to say bravo to my 3 fellow candidates because I think they all had very sound, reasonable solutions to this problem. I'm a plumber's daughter. Victor Cirillo was a plumber in Delaware for many, many years, as was my grandfather. They would be horrified to learn that any kid has to attend school with lead in the water. And you're right, bake sales don't solve the problem. Families, taxpayers, you need to contact your state legislatures. You need to contact Governor Carney. This is a Department of Education issue for the state of Delaware. This is just completely unheard of. Something has to be done. We need to replace the pipes, as Doug so aptly stated. But again, it takes the voices of everyone coming together saying this is unsuitable and not satisfactory for our public school children. So everyone, please get involved. Let them know, and teachers too. No one wants to fill the refillable water bottle with water that's perhaps coming out of the water fountain. So please, everyone get involved and let your voices be heard. The state.
Thank you, Christine. That's it. Thank you so much. So the last question will be for all of you. Recently, there's a lot of talk around charter schools and their growth in our state. What are your views on school choice? Please elaborate on how you view charter schools. In the past few years, there has been an escalated amount of cases around hold on one second. Okay, let me repeat this question. Recently, there is a lot of talk around charter schools and their growth in our state. What are your views on our school choice? Please elaborate on how you view charter schools. We're going to start with you, Christine.
My oldest son graduated from the Charter School of Wilmington in 2014. He had different options, and that is the school that he chose. It was one of the best things that he did because it led to him getting an undergraduate degree, and now he's in a 4-year PhD program at Penn State main campus in computer science, doing research for the university. That school offered innovative teaching methods, teachers who were fresh in their field, experts in their field, and it really raised the bar. What's wrong with competition? Competition makes everyone better. It makes everyone do a little bit better today than they did yesterday. And it will keep people wanting to vie for which school is best for their child. Parents, you know what is best for your child better than anyone. You should be given the option of choosing where your student attends school. Let schools figure out how they can improve. You know, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. Let's look to schools that are successful, that are putting out amazing graduates going on to do amazing things. And then let's emulate those policies.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have Doug.
So Delaware law, Title 14, Chapter 4, Section 403 allows any parent to enroll their child in a traditional public school, a VOTEC school, or a charter school in order to maximize parental choice in obtaining access to educational opportunities for their children. I went to a charter school. In fact, I went to the first charter school when it was the only charter school, the Charter School of Wilmington. But that school was meant to be an experiment for success in public education, not a mandate for more charter schools. What we got, though, was a collection of charter schools, some successful, some not. These charter schools are not as accountable to the public as a traditional public school is, and they don't need to accept every student who wants to attend. The state seems to be evolving on this concept with its Wilmington Learning Collaborative. Much like a charter school, this experiment takes some upfront capital, has wider discretion in spending, and tries to build better community integration and local controls. And I'm interested to see
Thank you,
where it
Doug.
goes.
Thank you, Doug. Next, we're going to have YF
But first and foremost, I'm actually a product of public education. I graduated from Cape and Lopez School District. Go Cape. With that said, I worked on various projects. I went to school at University of Southern California, also graduated from Johns Hopkins University. I worked on various projects such as the Life on Mars detection program from the JPL, and also worked with epidemiology to detect, well, issues in healthcare. Now, with that said, we have these choices for parents, and these charter schools, well, believe it or not, there was a debate back in 2010 where the metric indicates that, statistically speaking, parents are more engaged when they're enrolling their kids to charter school. So why is that? We must address that root cause. We must address that as a root cause so we can better address why we can better serve the public school system. And like Christine said, what are they achieving in? And perhaps we can use some of their success stories to apply
Thank
to
you.
our schools.
Thank you so much. Next, lastly, we're gonna have Young Peng.
The one history fact is, yes, that the charter school was built because they want to do some experiment to have a model that can all the public school can follow that model to be improve our education, public education. But the fact is, somehow this didn't happen. The charter school pretty success today, but the public school can continue its low performance compared to the charter school. So there must be some reasons there. So that is one thing. Second thing, I totally support the children have the school choice, either not a charter school, if the public school doesn't serve its purpose to educate children the necessary skills and the knowledge they need and teach something wrong, they should go to the homeschool even. They should, down the road, the voter should tell the legislature to give more freedom to their parents.
Thank you. So now we have a question. So now we will have questions from the audience, and Flora will be asking those questions.
Thank you, Nichelle, and thank you to all of the candidates. We only have one question that hasn't already been addressed through the chat. And we're actually running up on time, so this is perfect. And each candidate will have 30 seconds to answer this question. It's pretty long. The majority of school book bans center around race and racism in America, American history, sex education, and LGBTQ themes. How subjective is it to support a holiday that celebrates an alleged founder of America whose claim to fame is discovering a new land that was already occupied? In addition, an increasing amount of states are banning critical race theory to be taught in schools, yet by academic definition, there are no critical race theory classes taught. What are your objective approaches to exposing all children in our public school system to learn about history, not just European history extended into present history based on facts in an age-appropriate context, rather than what supports one group's version of historical events? And we're going to start with YF
It's a fantastic question. First and foremost, I want everybody to know that we need to teach facts. We need to teach history, how it happened. As a matter of fact, without learning all aspects of history, we will never develop students that have critical thinking skills. We're just going to have a single set mind. We won't be able to actually fully address issues and fully listen with empathy, care, and understanding.
Thank you, Lou. Young Ping, 30 seconds.
I just would like to share one fact when I working into the communication, door talking to the people. our kid in the school today, they didn't taught the right things. The student don't know. They said American was not in the Second World War II. They were told that Franklin is a gay, and also they said, okay, the teacher tell the children, slavery, black slavery is matter. Why doesn't?
Thank you so much. That's time. Christine?
Okay, I'm Italian. My grandparents immigrated here as teenagers from Italy. Removing a statue, such as the one on Pennsylvania Avenue, Christopher Columbus, does not remove the historical aspect of Christopher Columbus's adventures. You can take the good, the bad, the heinous, and put it all together. It still needs to be taught. Removing the statue doesn't remove what happened. I agree with FY Let's talk about all aspects of history as they happened, and let's have an open, honest discussion about this historical
Christine,
facts.
That's time. Thank you. And Doug?
History is dirty, messy, painful, but it's ours, and we need to teach and understand it as such. On increasing diversity in history, 2021's HB 198 required a curriculum on Black history for K through 12 that incorporates contemporary events. These are still being worked on, but the Department of Education expects to release grade 5, grade 7, and grade 11 later this year. So hopefully we're slowly moving toward the right answer here.
Thank you, Doug, for that. And now each candidate will have 1 minute only, to wrap up and conclude for tonight. And we will start with Doug.
School board elections are critical to long-term success of the school district. A strong school board can help create strong school district, which can help foster strong students who will grow up to be our neighbors, our coworkers, and our future leaders. Christina School District has come a long way, but there is still more work to be done. We need to strengthen the programs that are working well, revise the ones that aren't, and ultimately deliver on the state's mandate to provide a quality education to all children in the school system. I recognize that many of the problems we see in the schools stem from problems in the home and the community. I recognize that many of our children are hungry, have struggling families, and are in danger of being left behind. I recognize that I am just one person on one school board, but together as a community, we can overcome these barriers and create the public school system that the children in this community deserve. It is our duty as the adults in the room, as their parents and guardians, to provide them with opportunity and a bright future. My name is Douglas Danger Manley, and I'm asking for your support on Tuesday, May 9th to strengthen our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine?
Yes. Okay. If I'm elected, I'm going to do lots of things to basically improve everyone's situation, because your kids deserve better than what they're getting right now. For one, I think taking what we know works in other schools, what's successful, and we have to implement them into our public schools. Let's renew, revitalize, and restore our school district. What does that mean? Let's renew the commitment that we made to students and taxpayers. Let's make sure that students are truly being educated and getting all that they need so that they can go out into the world and go to college, a trade skill, or simply join the workforce or the military and be successful at any path that they choose. Let's revitalize our curriculum. Let's make sure that students have the basic skills necessary so that they can be productive citizens of society and truly be at their best. And third, let's restore common sense back into the school system. Kids are there to learn. They're there to grow. They're there to be challenged, and they're there to be friends.
Thank you. That's time.
you.
Thank you. Young Ping?
High quality education can positively impact people's life and strengthen our community. However, our education policy has failed by losing focus on academic strength. Tonight, we already hear a lot of the number about that. So to get ourselves out of this, our kids does not receive the high quality education they deserve today. By getting ourselves out of that situation, I propose focusing on 3 priorities. Again, pursuing academic excellence, increasing parental engagement, and encourage good citizenship. My name is Yang Peng, and my goal for running to the school board is to use a common sense to turn things around. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, YFLU.
All right. Being a father is by far the greatest honor of my life. And I thank my kids every day to call me their dad. Well, come over. They have been extremely supportive of me. As a matter of fact, they have kept quiet this whole time. So I am very grateful that they have helped me. And they also even drew pictures for me in my campaign. So yes, I want to fight for them, and I want to make sure that their future is ensured, just like every single person that we represent in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, friends, that concludes our Christina School Board Candidates Forum. We want to remind you that Young Peng and YFLU are running for Christina School Board Nominating District E, while Doug and Christine are running for Christina School Board Nominating District C. And you get to select, obviously, one of those two nominating districts. Please do not forget to rock the vote on Tuesday, May 9th. And if you can, take another soul or more with you to the poll. Take care and good night.